Hello and welcome to MINYIP. This is your home of fantasy sports community. My name is Blake and I am joined by Clinton. How are you, Clinton?
Good, thank you, Blake. I've had a busy week with footy clinics and just had my second jab this afternoon, so I'm fully vaxxed. So if I happen to go downhill throughout this, you might have to cover for me. But all's well, Blake, and looking forward to the soccer and racing this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be covering FPL in this show, but tomorrow night we'll be covering our first episode of Supercoach Racing. So stay tuned for that one. Make sure you like and subscribe to this show so you can be updated on our future shows with other sports that are coming up in our future shows. So make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. We definitely encourage you to leave a comment on the show notes as well. And that way we can get your feedback and also just ask us about your FPL teams and fantasy sports teams in general. We're on TikTok now. We're flying on TikTok. We've got Instagram. We've got our Twitter handles there beside our faces there. So make sure you hit us up on the socials as well. Absolutely flying across all social media platforms, as I'm sure you're aware there, Clinton.
Yeah, absolutely, Blake. I'm sure Dad will be really proud of that, and he wouldn't have a clue any of what the social medias are these days. But it's you're doing a great job, Blake, by getting us out there in different platforms. So see how things progress.
Yeah, we're on Apple and Spotify podcasts. So however you're listening to us right now, I'll just quickly share one dad story while we're on that subject. So one year, Apple would just release the latest iPod, and I asked Dad for an iPod, and Dad goes, "Oh, why would you want one of those bloody things?" It's like, "Oh, why? Just like listen to music." He thought an iPod was a piercing that you put in your eyebrow.
All I remember is by the time I left home, he still struggled to use a remote control. So that's where things were at. That was about 18 years ago.
Trying to put DVDs in the video player, but that's all right. We'll leave Dad alone for now.
Yeah, leave it
alone. Let's go across to some FPL talk now. So last week's results: Chelsea lost to Man City 0-1, Man United 0-1 to Aston Villa, which was a bit of an upset. Everton 2-0 versus Norwich. Leeds 1-2 West Ham. Leicester 2-2 versus Burnley. Jamie Vardy had a field day, scoring 3 of the 4 goals. Watford 1-1 versus Newcastle. Brentford 3-3 versus Liverpool, which was a thrilling game. Southampton 0-1 versus Wolves. Arsenal 3-1 versus Spurs. I don't think we need to talk about that game at all, so that'll be good. And Crystal Palace 1-1 versus Brighton. What'd you make of those games there, Clint?
Yeah, the first two were shock results for sure. I think Man City just halted a little bit of the Chelsea talk about them being the runaway winners this year. So they just reminded everyone how impressive they are. And yeah, Aston Villa for sure. Very entertaining finish to that game. And obviously, yeah, the one second last down the bottom was an entertaining game, which we could talk about for a long time if you really want to. But Saturday, I normally stay up to watch a bit of the soccer, but I had a few drinks, so I didn't do that. And then going into Sunday night with the Arsenal Spurs game at 1:30, I decided to try my best to stay up. And believe it or not, I watched the first half, and I thought that was super impressive what Arsenal did. Just walked all over Spurs, so that was my highlight of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been. My highlight. I just don't want to stay on that topic too long with Spurs. They're out of form at the moment, and they've got some bad fixtures coming up, which we'll discuss later. So I don't want to talk about the Spurs. That'll be good. Bruno stepped up to take the penalty for Man United. If you missed that, it was an interesting decision for Bruno to take the penalty instead of Ronaldo, and then he just skied it, which he usually doesn't do. It's quite funny watching Martinez as the goalkeeper for Villa trying to tell him that Ronaldo should take the penalty. So that was one of my highlights for the 9:30 game there. Another interesting result there was Brentford 3-3 versus Liverpool. Tony was on fire. And we both predicted it's probably going to be a low-scoring defensive game, but it turned out to be just about the highest scoring game of the whole round. So it was quite interesting as well.
I think there's a couple of teams that are really worth watching when you get the chance, and Leeds obviously are one, despite conceding a lot. And I think Brentford are just quietly ticking along for a team that's obviously just been promoted. They're an entertaining team to watch. Obviously, you've got the top teams who have expensive budgets and have the best players in the world, but then those two teams have some quality players. I like their game style, so it's really good to watch.
Yeah, their fixtures really open up around the game week 9. So Tony and some other defensive assets there will be quite interesting to see if people will jump on board. We'll go across now to the top scorers of the round. We got House in 0.2% of teams priced at 4.4 scored 15, the highest score of the round. Saar, the goalkeeper, scored 14. Saka 13, Smith Rowe 12, Cancelo 12. Some quite, I would say, lesser owned players there. Saar's only in 2.3%, Saka 8.8, Smith Rowe 4.1, and Cancelo 12.6. So some high scores there from lesser owned players, Clint.
Yeah, a couple of daggers from my heart there. Obviously, I'm really impressed that the Arsenal boys are on there, and I think Arsenal's all of a sudden, in the space of 3 weeks, went from a team to completely avoid to now a team that you can target both ends of the pitch. And then also, yeah, just want to mention Saar. Obviously, I had him for the vast majority of my wild card, and then I decided to change it late. So really disappointed about that. And Cancelo's just a star, and he's one that there's a lot of people wildcarding over the course of the next 1 to 2 weeks. Obviously, I've already done that, and I had him at the start of the year, but I didn't want to go double Man City defense, and he's just a player that, if he continues to stay in the team, which is likely, he's one that he'll very likely be one of the top scoring defenders at the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't own any of them, but how many have you owned there at certain stages throughout the year, Clint?
I did have Smith Rowe and Cancelo at the start of the year before I wildcarded, and yeah, obviously regret the Cancelo removal, but then also Saar. I was tossing up between Saar and Raya, and for the price, I went with Raya. So yeah, disappointing. I missed out on that score, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And now we go across to one of my favourite slides of the whole program. And we'll find out why in a second. So Ronaldo, 2 points, Benrahma 3, Lukaku 2, Shaw 0, Alexander-Arnold 1 point. They're highly owned players. Ronaldo 48%, Benrahma 36, Lukaku 34, Shaw 34, Trent Alexander-Arnold 32%. I had 3 out of the 5. How about you, Clint?
Ding, 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 ding. So I happen to have all 5. Obviously, captained Ronaldo. So yeah, so it's the exact reason why the last couple of weeks my team has decided to plummet in ranking. It's disappointing that obviously can't do much about injury with Shaw. I regret getting him on in wildcard, but Ronaldo and Lukaku are 2 premiums that a lot of people have won. So it's but the fact that I have both and don't have Salah, that's the reason why my ranking is skyrocketing in the wrong direction. So yeah, disappointing, but hopefully they can redeem themselves this week.
Yeah, considering they're quite highly owned, I'm sure you wouldn't be the only person to own all 5 of those, but probably not owning Salah as well would be the kicker there for yourself. Yeah, Ronaldo, 48.4% of managers own him now. People just keep getting him, and he hasn't actually delivered that well for the last couple of rounds, but I'm sure.
When it comes to transfers, I think the bottom 2 names on that page will be highly talked about because Trent obviously is injured for this week. He's definitely out, and Shaw's the one that is unknown if he's going to be playing this week. So not only do they, if it's a low score, it hurts, but then if it's an injury doubt, that's when it makes fantasy managers really concerned.
Yeah, Trenton Shaw will be a conundrum for a fair few managers this week. So my recap of game week 6, I scored 55 points. Not a bad result overall. I moved up the rankings about 500,000, I think. So I'm 1.2 million overall now. Had Sanchez in goal, scored 2. Lucas Dean finally did something and got 5 points for me. Alexander-Arnold 1, Livramento 2, Benrahma 3 in the midfield with Havertz 1, Sarr 9, who's been in a hot run of form. Salah as my captain, scored 14 points in total. Probably could have, he had a few more shots on goal, which got disallowed. Lukaku 2, St. Maximum 8, and Antonio 8 as well. On my bench, I had Backman didn't play, White scored 2, Dallas scored 2, and Ailing didn't play, got 0. My one transfer that I made from last round, in the end, I decided to not take a hit, and I just went Jimenez to Antonio, which they worked out to be the same amount of points, I'm pretty sure. If not, maybe Antonio won 1 point more, but I'm pretty sure Jimenez was the same. So overall, probably not the greatest transfer considering it didn't gain me any points, but I can't complain too much because what I was considering was getting out Lukaku and Havertz for Ronaldo and Maddison, who didn't play. Lukaku scored the same as Ronaldo. So in the end, it worked out quite well for me, and I'm going to preserve my wild card until the game week 11 to 12 international break now. So it's worked out quite well for me and set me up for Chelsea fixtures going forward. So overall, pretty happy with how my team performed in comparison to some other managers not having any Man United assets. Could have done a couple of things better. I was considering doing Lukaku to Vardy, which again, I probably would have taken a hit to do, but I've got Lukaku now for the upcoming good fixtures, so can't complain too much there, Clint.
Yeah, you've got a solid front three. So St. Maximin's been one of the most underrated players selected early, and you jumped on that, so well done to you. Obviously, Havertz is the one that's probably, despite Chelsea's good fixtures, the concern for him is he's not in great form, and even in the Champions League had another poor performance. So, and they've got Arsenal covered with White on the bench. Will be a handy play going forward there. Good fixtures. So you're well set up, Blake. So right now I'm a bit jealous.
Yeah, overall pretty happy with that. Started with St. Maximin since the start of the year, who's turned out quite well. I do remember you talking me out of Townsend at the start of the season, but that's all right.
Yeah, well, I think even on your bench you had there Dallas. So I think he's a type of player that you probably could be looking at up to downgrade or upgrade to a better midfielder, but it all depends what you want to do with that money.
Yeah, that'll come wild card time, I think, when I get a chance to. So go across to your team now, Clint. 38 points overall.
38 points, yes. So Raya 2 in goal, Diaz 5, Shaw 0, Trent 1, Benrahma 3. Gallagher was my transfer in. He got 4, got a late yellow card. Greenwood 2, Jota 7, Ronaldo 4, Lukaku 2, Antonio 8. And on the bench, there wasn't any score to be too concerned about. So, yeah, I think, as I said, you can, with my wild card a few weeks back, you can either laugh or cry about it. I'll choose to laugh about it. So I had, obviously, Sarr, who ended up getting an assist and bonus. So, what was it, 14 points? So, disappointing, but Raya is the one I chose, so I'm going to stick with him. I'm really disappointed that obviously I chose Shaw and Greenwood on that wild card, so they've pretty much given me stuff all in terms of points. Diaz and Trent, I'm obviously happy with them being my team, but we'll see what happens with Trent because I am potentially tossing up something a bit different, so we'll discuss later on. So Gallagher, I was really happy to bring in. I was tossing up a lot of things last week, and I had Torres there, who I had a feeling that was very shaky in the Man City team. So I did decide to get rid of him for Gallagher, and I'm happy with that decision. So obviously disappointing with the score, but I'm hoping that some of those players can redeem themselves this week.
Yeah, it was a good move getting Gallagher in, and Jota finally got a return for you. But
he's still on thin ice as well, so I'm not sure what I'll do with him because he's between him, Greenwood, and Torres. It's been a disappointing inclusions in my wildcard a few weeks back.
And Firmino's back, I see. He scored some goals
Double.
midweek. Yeah. You didn't drop too much in ranking, did you?
No, I dropped a bit.
Probably about 500,000, was it?
Yeah, about quarter. So I was 560 on, so now I'm 817. So not going the right direction, but I'm hoping this week prior to the international break can redeem that ranking.
Yeah, you captain Ronaldo, but I suppose you probably
just touching on that. So in the 6 game weeks we've had, I've chosen 4 blank captains. So that's a big difference. So it all adds up, and even if I get 4 out of 6 compared to 2 out of 6, it all adds up. So it's all about fine margins, and right now it hasn't gone my way recently, but hopefully I can call my way back.
Yeah, it definitely adds up. I think I've scored about 130 points now from my captains.
I'd be
lucky with a half. Yeah,
I'd be lucky with half that. So.
Yeah, we go across to our league now. Our fellow community members. Scott's still in the lead there, going strong. He's led the whole way so far for 6 game weeks. It's all the same there, except for Dem's made a big push there. Kai's Cobras into 3rd position with a score of 62. He's moved up into 3rd position. And also there, having the top score for the game week was Tommy Ladd. Thomas scored 65 points in total. Second time Tom's been our top scorer. So good work, Tom. Just probably needs to be a bit more consistent there. Obviously, he's having some big game weeks, but he's coming in 8th. Pretty sure a close mate of Scott's. So a bit of insider trading of knowledge there, I think. You started off strong there, Clint. You were in the top 5, but you've just slipped away slowly.
Yeah, no, well, it's a marathon, Blake, and as you know, you can get off a bit of a slow start or have your patches, and I've hopefully had my down patch, so I'll hopefully be back up there soon.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to still join the league if you happen to come across this video after 6 game weeks. But yeah, we've got 45 league members there, and they're being very consistent with Scott being on top still. Let's go now to the transfer in and outs for the game week. As expected with Chelsea with their good fixtures coming up, there's 3 of them there. We've got Alonso, the most transferred in player, 324,000. Sarr, 298,000. Rudiger, 297. Antonio, 290,000. And Lukaku, 251. The best thing about that is 4 of them are in my team, and now people are bringing them in. Transfer outs, Shaw, most transferred out, nearly 500,000 there. Torres, 224,000. Fernandez, 192. Bamford, 188,000. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, 187,000, which I'm very interested to see what you do with a few of your players there, Clinton defence. What do you make of the transfer ins and outs?
It makes sense that the Chelsea boys are getting transferred in. I think everyone's been waiting for this game week to really attack Chelsea, so that makes perfect sense. Antonio was no doubt sold by a lot of people with his red card, and now he's back and looking very dangerous again, so that makes sense. And obviously we're recording prior to the Europa League, so we'll wait and see what happens with West Ham tomorrow morning our time. But and then also Sarr is a player that people are really jumping on now. I think with the Watford team, I think there was doubt about their attacking ability, but he's the one that's really showcasing his a damaging player. And then looking at transfers out, obviously Shaw has been flagged all week, and after getting injured and taken off early last week, he's been sold a lot, but there's still a chance he'll play. So the advice would be to always wait until late as possible to try and see if that will change, and he does happen to play. Torres hasn't played the last 2 game weeks, makes sense. Fernandez is still being sold slowly. Bamford's injured, and so is Trent. So they make perfect sense. But just looking at that list, Blake, it reminds me of the fact that of the low scores, was Fernandez on your low scores that you posted before? Because
He wasn't.
that would have completely, instead of me having all the 5 low scores, I think Bruno might have snuck his way. So that would, now that we've recorded it, it's all good. But I think you purposely bypassed Bruno Fernandez, so I had all 5 of the low scores. But that's all good. I'll forgive you.
I missed him because he scored 0.
Yeah, that's okay.
Actually, no, he wasn't. He's not in the top 5 ownership anymore.
What's his ownership?
He's at 28%.
Well,
that's why he wasn't in the top 5.
Well,
he was 6th.
Okay.
I was wondering.
I thought I found a mistake, but no, you're in front of me. But
not this mistake.
All good. I just wanted that changed, so I could maybe edit that bit out. But
I'll add him as 6th for you next time, just make you feel better.
What I will say is with the Chelsea players is they obviously played again last night in Champions League. The big question is their defense and which players to bring in. Rudiger is the safest option. Alonso is still playing every week at this stage, but who knows when the Chilwell change will happen or if it will. Reece James has been injured. So there's a lot of unknowns, but a lot of people have settled on Alonso and Rudiger. I'm potentially going to get both of those players in the team, but we'll see. I'm awaiting the Shaw news before I decide my changes.
Yeah, we'll discuss a few of those players later on in our team reveals and what we're going to do with our team. If you look at Sarr there, the second most transferred in player, it's quite surprising considering Watford probably have the worst fixtures going forward over the next 5 game weeks. So this is a new segment which we've added in. This is upcoming fixtures for all teams. So if you're watching the show, you'll see the green lit up for Chelsea fixtures for the next 5. They play against Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, and Burnley. You can't get too much of a better run than that. Leeds also have great fixtures, but haven't been playing the best of football. So that'll be interesting to see how they go with those good fixtures. That's probably why Rafinha is such a popular player. Arsenal have a good run of fixtures for you, Clinton. They've just got Brighton, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa for the next 3. And Wolves still have good fixtures. So maybe now they'll better turn it around after Jimenez scored last week. What do you make of that there, Clint?
Yeah, as I said earlier, everyone's been waiting for this Chelsea game week 7 onwards. And yeah, that's why there's so many Chelsea players being transferred in. Leeds are a team that, despite the good fixtures, I knew at the start of the season that I was potentially going to go without Rafinha and Bamford, and this would be the stage to also jump on them. But Bamford's injured and Rafinha's flagged once again. So I'm not so sure on Leeds, and they're looking very shaky defensively. So Rafinha would be the only one I'm looking at Leeds. Arsenal, what a turnaround. They're 3 in the bounce and good fixtures. So all of a sudden, they've got players to start thinking about. And we'll talk about that with our watch list. Yeah, and Wolves, I'm not sure if I can fully trust just yet. Obviously, they won 1-0, and great to see Jimenez score, but I'm not sure if I could trust them. And if you look at the other end, as you mentioned, Watford, Tottenham, and United, and even Liverpool. So there's a lot of teams, relevant teams there. So there is, what I would suggest looking at this page is sometimes fixtures really matter, but then also sometimes players outperform fixtures. And I always remember last year when I think it was Aston Villa played, I think it was Man City away, and I benched a couple of Aston Villa players, mainly Grealish, and he decided to put through 20-odd points. So sometimes the fixtures can be misleading, and you can go on a player's form, which is why, in regards to Sarr, he's playing really well. He's in form, so fixtures may not matter for that guy, and he'll just maybe continue to score. So it's a very relevant slide to look at to see which teams you might want to target, but it's not the everything. So a lot of people play the fixture game. A lot of people just play the eye test and want to believe that form matters the most. So it's definitely worth considering. And Chelsea they're the most talked about team this week as a result of their fixtures.
Yeah, I'll put this one up on our socials just because it's quite difficult to explain over the podcast format. But yeah, like you're saying there, if players are in form, they still manage to score anyway. Like if you look at Brentford, they've probably got quite difficult fixtures over the next two. They got West Ham and then Chelsea and Leicester. But then it turns around for game week 10 and 11 with Burnley and Norwich. Tony quite possibly could score still 4 out of those 5 games, the kind of form he was showing against Liverpool. He's definitely one I've got my eye on going forward. But with my current assets I've got up forward, I probably won't be moving on him in the next couple, considering he's got West Ham and Chelsea. But yeah, like you said, those kinds of players, they just find a way to keep scoring when they're in form.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning that sometimes you might see a team with a lot of red fixtures, but sometimes you have to dig a bit deeper. Even a month ago, I think they were showing Man United's fixtures, and I think it was Man United, and it just looked bad on paper. But then if you actually read into it more, for example, the next 2 weeks they play, or 3 of the next 4 they play Everton, Leicester, and Tottenham. And I think a month ago that was all red fixtures or fixtures they saw as bad. But now all of a sudden, I think Ronaldo's the type of player that you should be confident he could score in 3 of those 4 at least. So the changes, the form, or sorry, the difficulty can change pretty quickly. And for example, Tottenham's the main one. 3 weeks ago, they looked like a very tough fixture, and now all of a sudden they look like a potential easy fixture. So that can change as well.
Yeah, Tottenham and Arsenal have pretty much switched positions there over the last 2 game weeks even. So yeah, can flick around quite quickly. Go across to our watch list now. So goalkeepers, you've got your eye on Mendy and Edison still. I'm still watching Martinez and McCarthy. They're probably for my wild cards, and for you, probably your backup keepers there.
Yeah, those 2 big hitting goalkeepers, and they're not changing. I don't think I'll change, but if I do change, I'll likely go all the way up to one of the premiums. So I don't think that's going to happen though.
Yeah, you've got your eye on a couple. We've got our eye on a couple of Chelsea defenders there. So you've got Aspi, of course, is Azpilicueta. If you're watching the show, Aspi is now his name. Rudiger, I've already made my transfer and put him into my team. He's on your watch list. We're both watching Alonso.
Yeah, I think, well, all depends if he plays. If he continues to start, like, he's the one to get. And Cancelo, we're both obviously watching because right now they're the 2 best defenders to have. Obviously, Trent's injured at the moment, so they're the 2 everyone wants to get. But all depends on transfers and if you've got a wild card or not.
Yeah, it definitely depends on Trent for me. I've already got 3 Chelsea players now. If you're new to the game, you can only have 3 from each team. Cash, bit of an interesting one there, Clint.
I think Aston Villa is starting to show a bit, and he's got a bit of attack minded. He just runs forward and can look dangerous, so I don't mind him. And they surprised a bit recently. I think everyone saw their fixtures at the start; they were good, and then they turned poor. And I think he's a perfect example of the previous slide about how on paper it could look poor, but he's looking quite dangerous and could score well in the coming weeks.
Yeah, Aston Villa, they've got Tottenham in the next game week and then Wolves, so not too bad the next 2 game weeks. Even Arsenal, West Ham, Southampton, they could perform quite well than those next 5. So I've also watching Diaz, Duffy, and Marcel. Diaz is probably a wild card option, or even potentially a Trent replacement this week. I still haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with Trent. Duffy's the cheaper option who just keeps performing, and Marcel's got good fixtures for Wolves. And if they turn around their form, he could be a good option. Go across to the midfield. We've got some big names in here. You've got Salah. We've both got our eye on De Bruyne. They're probably the more expensive options there, Clinton. Yeah, got no plans to get Salah in at the moment. Can't afford him.
I chose to go without him, and it's one of those things. He's the best player in the league, without doubt. He's looking so hungry for goals, and it's one of those things. I decided to take a risk, and I'll have to say this every week now because I won't get him for the foreseeable future. But yeah, it is what it is. De Bruyne is probably unlikely in the short term as well, but I'll just be watching him. I think Mount I think he's still injured. So although he's on my watch list, it's just a matter of having a Chelsea midfielder in case he does start showing some form when he's not injured, and he can start playing because they have good fixtures. And obviously, I don't have Sarr. And the main one I want to talk about is Saka for Arsenal. I think he's looking very dangerous. He's cheap midfielder, and now they're starting to click a bit. I think he's the player that is a nice option in the midfield.
And good fixtures as well.
Yeah,
I'll be interested in him going forward as well. Possibly a Dallas replacement at his price. Could start performing for Arsenal. Who would be better out of him and Smith Rowe?
I'd say Saka. He's just a bit more dangerous. Smith Rowe, although he's starting, Pepe didn't start on the weekend, and if they do want to rotate him in, I'd say of the 3 sort of midfield just there, I'd say he's the likely replacement. Smith Rowe would be maybe the first one to go out. Odegaard's come in, is looking very, very good as well. So who knows how they'll shape up, but I think I'd have Saka ahead of Smith Rowe.
Yeah, Rafinha there. We've both pretty much had him on our watch list for most of the season, just about. Whenever they go forward, they're looking for him with Bamford being out. He's looking dangerous all across the pitch. If you saw his goal, he initially had the ball right at just about their goal line, near the goalkeeper, ran the length of the pitch to get on the end of the goal. So he's everywhere, but he's still got that, he didn't play full minutes, and he's still got a bit of injury. I think they're trying to manage him through the season as much as they can while still trying to play him because he's that important to their structure, and he keeps performing. So, he's still just sitting there on our watch list. And also Douglas Lewis for Aston Villa with their fixtures turning around. You considering him as an option?
Yeah, it's Louise. So yeah, it's all good. He's a cheap midfielder, and if I go down to a cheap midfielder, I still haven't done that yet. With the likes of Greenwood and Jota, there's every chance I'll go down really cheap, and he might be, I think, the best cheap midfielder at his price. Obviously, it's 4.5 still. He might go up even tomorrow, but I think he'll be the best cheap midfielder.
Yeah, some other cheap midfielders I'm considering is Gallagher, who you've already got, and Pogba. They're probably options for my wild card again. I'm pretty happy with my midfield at the moment, but yeah, they're options for my midfield. And Son is just sitting there on my watch list for when Tottenham finally turn around their form, which I don't know when it's going to happen. So he's just going to sit there on my watch list until Tottenham turn around their form, and they'll start playing through him. In your forwards, you've got St. Maximum, Armstrong, and you also got your eye on Vardy. St. Maximum, I've already got in my team, who's been performing quite well. I'm guessing these are just your options as backups for the moment, Clint?
Yeah, in case of injury, really. Obviously, without Salah, I've got 3 premium forwards. I'm very happy with them. If one of them gets injured, if it's Lukaku or Ronaldo, I perhaps might get Vardy, or if it's Antonio, I may get St. Maximin or Armstrong as a cheaper forward. But yeah, I've got the Holy Trinity up there, and I'm just hoping for one of these game weeks they can all score a double, and that's when I'll be laughing, and everyone else will be wishing they had all three.
Yeah, I've got my watch list on Ronaldo. I think I'll get him when I wildcard again. So, and I've already mentioned about Tony, game week 9 or 10 when his fixtures turn around. So, yeah, that's our watch list wrapped up, and we'll go across now to our should be game week 7 preview and our predictions of our scores. We've both got Man United to defeat Everton 3-1. Burnley, Norwich, you've got a 1-1 draw. You're expecting a low-scoring game there, Clint?
I am. I actually do think it's unlikely Norwich may score, but I just think this is a game they need to show something. They're at the bottom. If they don't do something this game, I think that it's a very, very early curtains for them. So they need to show something this game.
Yeah, I consider these two sides to be almost facing relegation between these two sides. We've both got Chelsea to defeat Southampton. You've got 3-0, I've got 5-0. Leeds, Watford could be an interesting game. Leeds, yeah, they're usually quite an attacking team, and so Watford, so it could be quite an interesting game. But you've got 1-2, and I've got a 2-2 draw for Leeds, Watford. Wolves, Newcastle, you've got 1-2 again, and I've got a 2-2 draw again. So what are you expecting over those two games there, Clint? Leeds, Watford, and Wolves, Newcastle.
I've actually gone against my original thoughts at the start. I think there'll be a few away teams get the job done, and I just think Leeds do concede. I'm not sure they're that, besides Rafinha, they're that convincing going forward at the moment. And Newcastle are in, I think, reasonable form, and Wolves, although they won last week, yeah, I'm still not, as I said earlier, I'm not convinced on them just yet. So both should be good games, and yeah, I'm just backing the away teams there.
Yeah, we're going across to your team now. Brighton versus Arsenal. I'm expecting quite a low-scoring defensive game, but they're both, I would say, informed sides. Brighton up there in the ladder. How do you expect Arsenal to go here, Clinton?
Well, I didn't think I'd be saying this 3 weeks ago, but they looked really good last week. They're in good form. I think they're looking quite settled. The captain, Granit Xhaka, is injured now, so he'll be replaced. But I think they'll be going with a lot of confidence, and it's actually a big game for both teams. But if Arsenal want to have a good season, this is the time to really carry this momentum with these fixtures. So I'm just backing them in to continue the form.
Yep, we go across to Crystal Palace. Leicester, you've got a 1-1 draw. I've got 0-2. Leicester, yeah, they had a 2-2 draw. Vardy scored 3 out of the 4 goals. I was expecting him to win that game, and Vardy was putting on a show, and I think he'll probably do it again against Crystal Palace. But are you backing Crystal Palace to do a 1-1 draw again?
Yeah, I think they're a pretty good team. So expecting a close game, and what I've seen of Palace at home, they're really exciting, and the crowd gets behind them. So I expect them to score, and the question will be how well Leicester can get through their defence.
Yep. Spurs, my boys, they're out of form at the moment, but I expect them to be a low-scoring game against Aston Villa. I've got a 1-1 draw. You've got them to lose 1-2. West Ham versus Brentford. This could be a very interesting game after what Brentford did to Liverpool last week. You've got West Ham to win 2-1. I've got them to win 2-0. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can contain the likes of Antonio and Ben Rama. But yeah, they played some quite attacking football last week, which was surprising. This could be a good game there, Clint.
It's a mixed bag for my team. Obviously, I have Raya in goal, but I have Ben Rama and Antonio. So yeah, I think you're right. It should be an exciting game, and I expect some goals. And Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more goals. I've picked three goals. I wouldn't be surprised if it's five or six. But hopefully my boys can score um, and Raya can get a lot of save points at the same time.
Yeah, and go across now to what should be the game of the week, just about Liverpool versus Man City. This could test Man City's defence just about the most for the entire season. Liverpool, a very attacking side. I've got a 1-1 draw and you've got a 0-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if for me, wouldn't be surprised if it was a high scoring game. Yeah, game of the round here, Clint.
Obviously, Man City got the job done versus Chelsea last week, and I think Liverpool might be a different kettle of fish. Obviously, Salah is the one to stop. I think the way that Man City they can Pep is such a great manager, and he can put a stop to some good players, and I think they'll find a way. I hope so for my fantasy team's sake. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's no scores. So it's one of those games. It's going to be a very interesting tactical battle, and that's no doubt. Last week it was Chelsea, Man City. This week's Liverpool City. So it's once again two of the best teams. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that one as well. I currently don't own any Man City assets, but that might change with my team reveal for this week. I've already made the one change. So I've already done Lucas Dean to Rudiger. So I already made the early switch because of the price rises that were impending for Rudiger, and Lucas Dean actually went down, but I got it just in time for Rudiger to come in. But yeah, now I'm almost regretting it, but because of Trent Alexander-Arnold's injury that he's picked up midweek and anticipated that he'll miss a couple of weeks, I believe. So yeah, I'm sitting there wondering whether to take a hit to get Trent in or not. Other than that, I won't be making too many changes. I'll bring Ben White onto the field for Livramento, who's got the better fixture against Brighton. But yeah, other than that, I won't be making too many changes. I'll be captaining Lukaku versus Southampton at home. And I believe that'll be about it. I'm pretty happy to keep my Leeds assets on the bench.
Big question for you, Blake, is I'm hearing a lot of people using a wild card over the next 1 to 2 weeks. A lot of them are using it after this week, going into game week 8. I just want to know your reasoning for holding it a bit longer.
So I was pretty much already set up for my Chelsea assets. So I think most people are wildcarding now because of so they can get the swing of fixtures with Chelsea. But I was already set up with Lukaku and Havertz going forward. I already planned to get the third Chelsea asset in. So I'm already set up in that regard. And I'm holding out for an international break to try and get a bit of a price rise. I'm priced, my team value is at about 101.1, but I'm hoping to boost that up in my value when I get an international break. And I think that'll come after game week 11, going into game week 12. And I can hold out till then. It would be just before the cutoff, just about. So it'll be, I think it'll be mid-year when the cutoff is for when you can make your first wildcard. And by holding out that long, if I need to, I can activate it earlier if I need to. So that's the plan for my wildcard. I haven't really needed to use my wildcard so far.
Makes perfect sense. I think looking at your team looks really solid. I think Havertz is the question mark for me. I think I love your graphics. It looks great. I think for those listening, you won't be able to see it, but you've got it really well set up on the graphics here. I think it doesn't show the flag. So obviously Trent is the one who's not going to play this week. But besides that, if you're full strength, you can have White instead of Livramento, and then obviously Havertz. As I said, I don't think he's in great form, and it's every chance he may not start, but he might start and all of a sudden score a hat trick. So he's a very big differential for your team. The question will be obviously whether, if you're going to change that, what changes will you make? Have you got an upgraded defense or leave Yeah, so that'll be the one question mark of the next few weeks to see. I think him in particular is the only slight concern, but as I said, that could be a differential. So you're well set up there, Blake. Good job.
Yeah, I had Havertz since the start of the year before pretty much I even knew Lukaku was going to come across. And I've just held him the whole way through. And now it would almost be silly to get rid of him now when he's got the good fixtures. So yeah, I'm just hope he's got the quality to, as you said, score a couple of goals. So hopefully he takes the pitch with the good fixtures coming up. If it looks like he doesn't, I might have to make a few swings to get Alonso in, but he very well could miss as well. With Trent at this stage, I'm probably going to move him to Cancelo. Cancelo's the highest scoring defender. Looks good every week, even though he's got Liverpool this week. He's got good fixtures after that. And still be better than copping a 0 for Trent. So that's my plan at the moment. But it is international break after this week. Is that right, Clint?
Yes.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how far away Trent is from playing. You've got him on your team there as well.
So yeah, looking at my team there, it's the same as last week. I haven't made my transfers yet. I said transfers because I do have 2 to use. I've got a couple of issues to try and fix up. Obviously, I've got Shaw and Trent in my defence. As I said earlier, I'm waiting to see what happens with Shaw. In the midfield, I'm not overly pleased to have Greenwood and Jota. So there's a couple of things I could do. Right now, despite I want to have Lukaku as captain as well, so I'll be backing him against Southampton as you did. I'm still on screen. I had a 3-4-3 structure from last week. It's very likely, as I said, all depends on Shaw's fitness. If he's out, there's every chance I may just go straight from Trent and Shaw gone. And my question is, there's a potential I might do a -4, but the 3 players, or the likely chance is, I'm tossing up between the defenders and getting Cancelo, Rudiger, and then potentially Alonso. And I could easily transfer out Williams as well as part of that. So they're the 3 that may go. If Shaw happens to be fit, or not 100% fit, but if he plays, I may just do Trent and Williams. And if I do that, yeah, I'm not overly excited to play Jota this week. So if I do happen to do those transfers, I'll likely have double Chelsea defense, then double Man City defense, and they're obviously against Liverpool. It's the same game, but I'm not expecting a high scoring game, especially Jota. So there's lots of things I could do, but it's going to be the end of the wire with especially the Shaw news to decide what I'll do. But I'm very likely trying to double Chelsea and then double Man City. And if Trent goes for me, looking at his fixtures over last month, obviously we looked at that over the next month. Obviously we looked at that just before, but with his groin injury, he could be missing for a few weeks. And if that does happen, the fixtures alone for Liverpool aren't great over the next month. So he's someone I could just hold off for a month, and then I'll be without Salah and Trent. But yeah, obviously, if he's not playing this week versus City, they do play Watford. Is it Watford? Yeah.
Yeah, Watford, game week 8.
Yeah, Watford, and then Man United, Brighton, then West Ham. So there's a month there of
roller coaster.
I'm not convinced there's going to be clean sheets for Liverpool. So that's what I'm weighing up at this stage. So here's the big one that a lot of people will be holding, but there's a lot of people in the situation of having Shaw and Trent, and then potentially other injuries. They may be wildcarding this week, but sorry for the long-winded answer to say that I'm still not sure, but I'm very likely in the next, before game week 8, I'll be very likely to have 2 Man City defenders and 2 Chelsea defenders. But it's just a question of how that comes about.
Yeah, we might have to start doing these shows about 5 minutes prior to lockout before games, just for you, Clint, because I don't think you've done a single team reveal this year where you've actually made a transfer or know what you're going to transfer.
In my mind, Blake, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the smart thing by holding off as late as possible. Because as I said, there's a couple of flags in my team there, and I'm a bit worried. A few weeks ago, I had injuries and I ended up with all my bench players playing, and I've got a very low score as a result. So
no, that's
I'm mindful of that.
Our listeners just might need a bit more clarity of what you're going to do.
That's fair enough.
Okay, let's go across now to our social media questions. So each week before we do our shows, I ask on my Twitter. So Blake Young at Twitter. I ask if anyone in our community has got any questions regarding their team. And this week we got a question from Scott, who was our leader overall in our league. And he said to hold or drop Luke Shaw. And we'll be holding him until about half an hour before lockout. So we know if he's playing or not, hopefully, from the team news. And most likely you'll be transferring him out for a Chelsea defender, I would recommend, if you've got a Chelsea spot there. That be your suggestion there, Clint?
Well, I think Scott should be taking his own advice because he's on top of our ladder. But in saying that, sure, a lot depends on everyone's team's different, and a lot of people have Trent as well. So he's been on my cut or to cut list for a few weeks anyway. So if there's no other issues, I think you should definitely be dropping Shaw. But all depends if you have other injuries, and if he's going to play this week, there's every chance it's probably better off to keep him. So once again, it's a difficult question to answer. You have to wait until clarity if he's playing, but it depends on your team. And if you got Trent, I'd potentially keep if he's playing, but if he's not, I'd sell him before the game week starts.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate your question there, Scott. So, we encourage anyone to ask any questions on our social media. Like I said, we're on Instagram. Just search MINYIP, TikTok, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. So make sure you subscribe, like to those channels, and leave comments. We'd love to hear how your team's going so far. Join our leagues, and we've got our Super Coach racing starting this week. So that'll be recorded tomorrow and up on our socials and everything tomorrow evening. Hopefully it won't be too late, but the lockout will be about midday Saturday, so you can still listen to it Saturday morning. So that'll be up there. Anything further to add, Clint, before we wrap up there?
Not really, mate. You've done a great job. I think, looking forward to this week's games. I'll hopefully watch a few more live games this week. The other thing is, you've almost finished a Patreon page, which we'll have up and running next week, which will be exciting to look at. It's this week. After this week, just a reminder that International Break won't be recording this show next week, so you can have a break from this show. But good luck, Blake. Hope you score well.
Yeah, you too, Clinton. Good luck with the FPL game week, and we'll speak soon regarding Super Coach Racing. So stay tuned for that one. And everyone have a good game week 7 of FPL.
Good luck.
Thanks, mate. Bye.